This is my favorite part of the whole record.
When I come home so cold at night, you'll have the fireplace burning bright.
You hear the strings? The strings are giving me quivers. It's For You by Big Star off their 1978 album Third/Sister Lovers. It's also number 449 out of 500 on the Spotify original, The 500, with me, the King Cadogal, the King of Fleece, Josh Adam Myers. What's up, everybody? Fleece Army at ease. You can chill and enjoy yourselves. This is the only podcast where each week we're going through Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest albums. And man, I had heard people talk about Big Star for a long time. Just never made their way into my ear, Cadogal. And then they did. They've sat there and they're setting up camp and starting a civilization in my brain. Really, really enjoyed this record. Really, really enjoyed all the positive feedback that you guys gave about the Judd Apatow episode. It was fantastic. If you haven't listened to it, go back. Just one. Just go right back. That's like literally open up your Spotify app, go to the podcast, see the one you're listening to right now, and the one right, it could either be below or above, but it's right there in that quadrant. Listen to it. Enjoy yourselves. It's a great episode. Also, thank you to everybody that's doing the screenshots on your Instagram stories of how you're listening to the 500. Do it. Take that screenshot, tag me at Josh Adam Myers, and put a hashtag the 500 podcast. Give us that 24-hour ad. And if you want to have a ranking in the Fleece Army, which you are now a part of now that you are an active listener of the 500, man, oh man, I will give you one with a bam. All right, guys, a little bit about this record. Technically, this album was released on March 18th, 1978, on PBC Records and produced by Jim Dickinson and engineered by John Fry. This is the third album by the Memphis, Tennessee power pop rock band Big Star, and it's got a very, very complicated history. Alex Chilton had already been a successful teenage superstar as the lead singer and guitarist in the Memphis blue-eyed soul group The Box Tops, who released their international #1 hit, The Letter. You guys know this one. It goes, "Bet down them tickets from an aeroplane, ski bottom do you bobbing them insane. Mama going home, keep a number known. Baby tried to write me a letter." That came out in 1967, and Alex Chilton was only 16 years old. They had another hit, Cry Like a Baby. That went to #2 on the charts the following year, and then they had another string of more successful songs and albums. But the group broke up in 1970, and Alex spent a little time in New York. When he returned to Memphis in 1971, Alex asked his old musician friend, vocalist and guitarist Chris Bell, to form a songwriting partnership inspired by Lennon and McCartney and Simon and Garfunkel. Instead, Bell invited Chilton to join Ice Water, a trio he had formed with drummer vocalist Jody Stevens and bassist vocalist Andy Hummel. Everybody is a blank vocalist in this group. They are not trying to ignore the fact that they can sing. He agreed, and the band changed their name to Big Star. Heavily influenced by the Beatles, the Stones, the Byrds, Big Star went into Ardent Studios, who also were their record company, and recorded and released their debut album, #1 record, the following year in '72. It was critically successful, but the inability of their parent company, black soul label Stack Records, to market a white boy guitar group stalled its commercial appeal. Because he was frustrated, Chris Bell left the band to pursue a solo career. Alex, Jody, and Andy recorded Big Star's second album, Radio City, which was released in '74. This got even better reviews, but again, another record distributor, Columbia Records, dropped the ball, and Andy Hummel quit the band to go back to college. Smart move, Andy. With no record distribution and only remaining members, Alex on vocals and Jody on drums and vocals, and a revolving group of Memphis session players, they went right back into Ardent Studios with producer Jim Dickinson and engineer John Fry to record a bunch of songs that were starkly personal and often experimental. Here is where it gets really murky, though. Before recording, Alex gave producer Jim Dickinson a bunch of beautiful acoustic demos of many of the songs that are on this record. But Alex set the tone of the recording on the night of the first session when he turned to look at Dickinson and then shot a syringe full of the opioid Demerol down his throat. I mean, is that a good friend or a good friend? I love you, Alex. My mouth is wide open. Now, Alex had said that this was never intended to be a Big Star record, and it really ended up sounding like a deeply personal but overly indulgent and experimental solo record. In fact, the recording session log sheets often had the artist name listed as either Alex Chilton, Alex and Jody, or Sisters Lovers, because Alex and Jody were in relationships with sisters, Lesa and Holiday Aldridge. You see, Lesa Aldridge was Alex's muse for this record. Chilton originally collaborated and even brought his girlfriend on to sing on a lot of these songs, but due to their stormy relationships, every time they hit a rough patch, he went back into the studio and recorded over her contributions. That is cold-blooded. Demerol to the producer, cutting out his girlfriend. Even though her vocals are only left on one song, her presence is felt throughout the entire record, and you can feel it in the anguish and turmoil of Alex's emotional disintegration. And due to Alex's increasingly delicate state, the sessions were eventually halted, and the record in progress was taken to be mastered. That's the final process before a record's released. That record, as Chilton later recalled, and I quote, was ruined by Jim Dickinson before it ever got out of the studio. He and John Fry took the project out of my hands, and I will dislike Jim Dickinson for the rest of my days for that. At that point, Big Star or even Sister Lovers was no more. Still, the Ardent Studio producers test pressed about 300 white label records of what they either called Sister Lovers or Beale Street Green, and then flew to New York and California to try and get the album a distribution deal. However, not one record company approved of the record's commercial viability, and it was shelved. And after that, everybody moved on to solo careers. Cut to 4 years later, when in 1978, this tiny American independent label, PBC Records, acquired a master tape and without Alex or Jody's consent, decided to finally release this as Big Star's fabled unreleased third record. The simply named Third was another commercial disappointment, but just like the first two records, it found a cult following. Sadly, a few months after Third's first release in '78, founding member Chris Bell was killed in an automobile accident at the age of 27. Now, after several reissues with different songs and orders, this definitive collection was compiled by original producer Jim Dickinson. This was his best attempt to reflect Alex and Jody's original concept. They added the name Sister Lovers to the title to honor the session logs, and that's where we are today. Big Star's three 70s records went on to influence countless musicians. I'm talking Kiss, The Replacements, R.E.M., The Bangles, fucking Chumbawamba. I bet Chumbawamba was influenced by him. And in 1993, Alex and Jody formed Big Star again for a reunion and one new album, In Space. But in March of 2010, Alex Chilton died suddenly of a heart attack just 3 days before another Big Star reunion show at South by Southwest. That show became a star-studded tribute to Chilton, and Big Star bassist Andy Hummel even played the show to honor his old bandmate. But just 3 months later, Hummel tragically died of cancer. They were both only 59. The only surviving member of the original Big Star lineup is drummer and vocalist Jody Stevens, who is still active in music today. And my guest today sent me a message and said, if you ever do a Big Star record, please think of me. My guest is the one and only Chris Garcia. You know him from his half hour on Comedy Central. He's a writer on Mr. Iglesias on Netflix. Maybe you've heard his album, or maybe you haven't, so you should buy it. It's called Laughing and Crying at the Same Time. But also, Chris has a new podcast out on WNYC Studios called Scattered, where Chris sets out to uncover the truth about his dad, a man who survived Fidel Castro's labor camps in Cuba, only to lose his way in search of the American dream. Chris has been working on this podcast for a long time. I know how much of his heart and soul are into it. If you get a chance, listen to that podcast. It's called Scattered on Spotify. It's incredible. Rate, review, and most importantly, subscribe to the 500 and listen free on Spotify or anywhere you get your pods. Follow me at Josh Adam Myers on all social media. and email the podcast to tell us how great of a job we're doing at 500podcast@gmail.com. And for all things 500, go to our website, the500podcast.com. Well, nothing left to say but have a go! With number 449 out of 500 with Third Sister Lovers by Big Star. Chris Garcia, the Chris Garcia. It is Chris Garcia, home at night, Chris Garcia. You're one of the few people that have joined in with accoutrements while I'm doing that. It's most people just stare at me awkwardly, so this means it's gonna be a good one. So Chris, we were talking online, and then you said to me, if a Big Star record comes up, please ask me. I'm a huge fan. Yeah. So why do you feel so connected to Big Star?
To me, Big Star is like one of the bands I heard that, when you're a kid and you hear something and it just like, it's the framework for all the music that I like. Like there's 3 bands that are just sort of like my North Star of that era.
Who are they?
It's the Beach Boys, the Velvet Underground, and Big Star. But the Beach Boys just grew up here I grew up here in LA. They went to the same high school as my sister, and then like when you hear Pet Sounds the first time when you're like a little wimpy high schooler or whatever, you're like, and then when you're like, when you get your heart broken in college, you're like, I'm a pussy.
Yeah, dude.
And then the Velvet Underground just was like, rock. That was just everything I liked after that, from like Sonic Youth to Television to like Yola Tango. That's independent. That's alt rock. To me, comes from the Velvet Underground.
This is because I didn't know any here with me and Big Star. I had heard of them.
Yeah,
and then you have me working with this list, and I'm going through the list, and I see Big Star, and then you see a couple of them, and I never asked anybody. I was just like, okay, I'm expecting like super duper country, not expecting anything. So I had really never listened to them. So for you, this started years ago.
This started in my late teens.
How did you find out about them?
So I had I was lucky enough to have a friend who had a big brother that was cool.
Always the big brother. It's always the big brother.
Cool big brother. Nathan Wilcox was his name, and he just knew all the shit. So like I grew up in the 90s. I went to high school in the 90s, and like he just knew. He was like, "Oh, here's you guys should listen to this," and be like, "Whoa, the Velvet Underground!" Like it just blows your mind as a kid. And so I started liking bands. Like he hipped us to like Matador Records and like Pavement and Yola Tango and all that early indie stuff.
Yeah.
And then we came home. I think we came home from college. No. It was high school. And he was just like, check out this. And it was Big Star, #1 record. And
which I've listened to recently, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And so the version I got was #1 record, Radio City. They came out together.
Yeah.
As I think maybe Reco Disc or something. They put out like this record, and I was like, whoa. And it just blew my mind. But just like loving music, and then realizing that the stuff that I loved came from this.
Yeah.
Like, and then you learn that REM covers it. Like, there's no REM, there's no replacements.
No Bangles.
No Bangles. They covered September Girls. Like.
Dude, the domino effect that this band knocks over to get to. I mean, I'd even hear elements of Radiohead and Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah.
It's all in there.
Yeah.
It's all in there. So without Big Star, I don't know if we're getting some of the direction of music that we're getting now.
Yeah.
But let's take it down to where we are now. So our album is the 3rd studio album, 3rd/Sister Love by Big Star, released March 18th, 1978, produced by Jim Dickinson. So when did you first hear this record?
So I was at Berkeley, where I went to college, and I was like, kind of sad. I had a girlfriend that was far away.
You do have like a melancholy about you. We go to the same boxing gym. Even the way you hit the bag, it's like you care about the bag. Like, you hit it and you're like, I'm so sorry, whoever put this together, because I'm beating your life's work.
Oh my God, I am a sensitive guy.
But that's why I like you, because you have depth.
Yeah.
You have everything you do. Your stand up, everything.
Well, that's why I like Big Star, like because they're vulnerable. Like they come out their first 2 albums. They come out with like power pop clap. They're like bam, and they're catchy. And then as the record keeps on going, their feelings come out.
Sure.
13's on the album. All these things, and you're like, oh, there's something behind this facade of like pop and rock and roll. And you're like, oh, there's a real guy in there. And their songs feel like they're for you. But so I was at Berkeley, and I had a long distance girlfriend, and I would just go to Amoeba Records in Berkeley and Rasputin, and I just spent all my time there. And I just kept on, like, I was there all the time just buying stuff with whatever little money I had working at the cafeteria at my dorm. And I was like, oh, and I saw a CD. I was like, I know Big Star. And I got it, and I listened to it. And at first I was like, oh, it's Big Star. And then as the album went on, I still have this feeling, and it's hard for me to listen to it all the time, because I was like, oh, this is sad. Like, it's so dark. And I was like, I had never heard anything like that. And so I was also sad from breakup, and I was just like, oh my God, I feel like it's in the inside.
Oh, you were
of my
going.
butt.
This was. It was almost like the album was. So you were supposed to see it. You were supposed to feel all the feels that Alex was giving you. So you're saying when you first heard this record, it didn't have the same taste as the other two, and you're going through this dark breakup anyway. So this album was just the soundtrack to that breakup.
Just falling apart.
Well, what about now? Re-listening, when I asked you to re-listen to it now.
I came back.
Wow.
It's weird. As soon as like Holocaust or something, I was like, "Aah!" Like I was like morphing into like reverse Incredible Hulk. Like I was the Hulk, and I was like,
you're going to turn it into Bruce Banner, and you're just like, yeah, get me my Bunsen burner, fuck.
Yeah, and it really felt icky.
Yeah.
And then I listened to it all week.
Good.
And it was a beautiful week just listening to it and just really thinking about the band. And I went into it, and I came out on the other side being like, fucking amazing.
So
what a wild album. I don't even know if it's fair to call it an album.
I'm not going to lie. I am in love with everything that I heard that Big Star has done before this. This one was a tough listen for me.
It's challenging.
It's a very challenging record. And I think that's kind of why it's a good record. I think it could be better. I think, and I'm not putting it down.
Sure.
I'm just saying, listen, I am still a passive Big Star fan. But, I mean, if you would have seen me this week, Chris, talking to people, like, have you listened to Big Star? Oh, my God, they're so great. And then I dove into this record, and I was like, this is really bringing me down. This is a really hard listen. Like, I wanted to listen to, like, other shit while I was doing this as almost like a palate cleanser.
Yeah,
you know?
I get it. I mean, this album, you have deteriorating relationship with his girlfriend. He's got these real weird people around him, and he's just getting obliterated every night and just pressing record. And he's like recording with his girlfriend, who really liked the Velvet Underground, who got Alex involved with it.
Yeah.
And then just like I read stories about how like not only they like fuck up the studio, but they totaled John Fry's car, his big black car. They like took it out for a spin and like fucked it up. And so he's like unhinged.
Yeah, so they're just this is just a mess while they're making this.
And it's not even, they weren't technically Big Star or anything. They weren't technically trying to make an album or anything. This is not an album. It's just like a snapshot, a glimpse of someone falling apart.
I love it though.
And he's like, this is not pop friendly.
The one that's on the fucking greatest hits is Holocaust, and it's called Holocaust.
I know, it's so dark. I couldn't listen to it all the way through when I was listening this week.
Same way. All right, let's dive into the record.
All right.
It opens up with Kiss of Me.
Yeah.
So the word shambolic is defined as meaning chaotic, disorganized, or mismanaged. And I feel that is the perfect word to describe this song and most of the record. And if you are like me and are not a fan of Big Star and this is your first introduction to them, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because it's like, how are people on this band's nuts if this is like, I was expecting 13.
Yeah.
Was not expecting this. And then, as you said, in case there wasn't any doubt about who inspired this, it was Alex's girlfriend, Lisa Aldridge. And basically, this song is about her. So, Peter, play a little bit of Kissing Me for me.
I wanna feel you deep inside. Wanna feel you, yeah. Kiss on me, laser. Why not?
It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all. It's to be honest with you, it's like the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, it's not that bad. You know what I mean? But it's not earlier Big Star. But it's literally Alex professing his love to Lisa and in what is a volatile relationship. And we have a lot more about her later in this. But this is still about him, being inspired by her. What muses you and what inspires your work?
Wow, that's quite a twist.
You see, I got some Wang Zookies coming up, dude.
Barbara Walters over here.
What muses you and what inspires your work?
It's funny. I think sad stuff is funny, which is, I know that's, but there's a certain things when, place when things get so sad that they become ridiculous again.
Sure.
I think that's kind of in this album. Sometimes it gets like almost like, yeah, I mean, someone falling down the stairs is sad and funny, but then I feel like there's something so funny about when you get to like absolute misery where it's just completely absurd, that's like totally hilarious.
Do you feel like you write your best work when you're in it? When you're in that sad space?
It definitely comes from something like that. It comes from a feeling. Like, I'm not one of those guys that's like, okay, well, I'm a joke architect. Here's a premise. How do I feel about jacuzzis?
Sure.
They're hot. Okay, let's start with that. I don't like heat. Like, I'm not one of those guys.
Yeah.
I'm not like I'm a feeling guy.
Yeah.
So just kind of how some musicians are kind of, there's prog rockers that are all like, do. I'm more of like, here's a little ballad I feel about my family.
So do you feel like your jokes are in a sense these little ballads and like the writing and just everything has been the podcast? I mean, these are all coming from places of, like one of the first times I ever saw you was doing the Radiohead joke.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a sad joke. The way you're singing. You're singing, we're singing what, Creep?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the saddest songs ever and you're making fun of it. So obviously you're in it.
Yeah,
So
I think so. Well, I think for me, my best stuff comes from like a genuine, with any comedy, and some people are genuinely angry and stuff, but I think when I have a strong feeling about something one way or another, that's where my stuff comes out, where it's like an authentic thought and just a real feeling and stuff like that. And stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not a headlines guy. No. I'm not any of that stuff. I'm like, oh, it's kind of funny. My dad's dying.
So immediately when you were watching the Dodgers game and they lost, you immediately just turned around and grabbed your joke book and were like, you're like, my girlfriend's a bitch, and just started writing like shit like that. It's just
it's time to clock in.
That takes us into Thank You Friends. Peter, play the chorus for me.
All the ladies and gentlemen who made this song so probable. Thank you.
So this is, in my opinion, way better than the opener. It's closer to the sound of Big Star that we heard in those first two records. I love the chorus. I love the female soulful backup singers.
Yeah.
For a record that's really mired in emotional turmoil, this is a lovely ode to the friendships that helped Alex Chilton get to where he is. Now, it could be him really professing his love. It could be a completely sarcastic response to the shit he found about himself in the recording of this album. I mean, we don't know if it's a fuck you. Is it a like, is he being serious or is he just saying fuck you to everybody, basically?
I think that's what makes a good song or a good movie where you can't really tell you're like, it could be this way or it could be that way. Like, it's a little tricky.
Yeah.
And so it's like I Love LA, that Randy Newman song. Everyone's like, it's a pro LA song. It's like, I don't know. He's kind of shitting on it. It's like, it could be read the other way where he's actually making fun of LA and thinks it's bullshit. Like, it could be, be read either way.
Then we get to Big Black Car. Peter, play the opening of it.
In my
It's a funeral march.
It is such.
That's
a
what this
bummer.
is. This song is a funeral march. I think you were talking about influences and how Lisa was introducing him to like Velvet Underground and things like that.
Yeah.
This is basically a Big Star, dreamed out, druggy drag Lou Reed, Velvet Underground song.
Totally.
100%. You can feel what they're wearing on their sleeve. Sounds to me like it could be about depression or death, or depression and death from heroin.
Yeah, like depression is the big black car that's driving him around.
Yeah,
from junk spot to junk spot.
That takes us into the next song, Jesus Christ. Peter, play a little bit of it for me.
Jesus Christ was born today. Jesus Christ was born.
This is a Christmas song for hipsters. This is something that you'd hear right around early December at an Urban Outfitters on Cuenca. This is not
is so funny.
That is there is no other group of people that listen to this. Religious people probably hate this song. It is strictly for guys with twirly mustaches that drink at the Cha-Cha Lounge.
That is so true.
Right?
It
Thank
really
you.
sounds
Good
like
song.
it. Great song.
Good song.
Silver Lake's favorite Christmas song.
Lisa Aldridge's father, Bill, was a Presbyterian minister, and Alex pulled lines for this out of his Presbyterian hymnal / songbook. And in 2018, the Monkees covered this on their first full-length Christmas release, Christmas Party. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think this is, I don't know. I think Jim Dickinson, the producer, may have put this order together, and I think that is hilarious because usually the fourth track on an album usually is the banger.
Yeah, it's the grand slam, dude. It's the cleanup.
And so he's like, all right, here we go. Song number 4, a Christmas song.
Yeah.
I think it's indicative of how loony of an album this is.
Well, also, and then like I say in the intro, is Alex hates Jim because of this. He hates. He's like, I'll never if I ever see him, I'm gonna beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
I mean, now I don't know if they're both. I know Alex is dead. Jim might still be alive, but it's like he's not happy with any of this. So probably the order that Alex would have won in it, it's not with Jesus Christ is the Lord. In the Grand Slam moment. But that takes us then to Femme Fatale. Now, we talked about the influence of Velvet Underground and his girlfriend Lisa on Alex Chilton because it's inescapable with this song, which is a faithful cover of a song about a female heartbreaker from the Velvet Underground and Nico, and it really hits everything on the nose. Play the chorus.
'Cause everybody knows the things she does to please.
So now Alex had the key to Arden Studios and would take his then 19 girlfriend Lisa in alone at any time he felt inspired, and they would party there while recording at night. Lisa was originally all over this record, and you can hear her on this song, but anytime they got into a fight, Alex would wipe out all of her vocal performances every single time. So you'd get into a fight, he would just record over her. It's interesting that while Alex sings this Lou Reed song that was originally sung by Nico, that Lisa, in a reverse of gender, sings in French the Lou Reed lines.
Oh.
What's the most spiteful thing you've done or had done to you during a breakup?
I love these twists.
It's the Inception, bro. It's the M. Night Shyamalan podcast.
Man, every time on the spot. Let me think of this.
It can be either you or had done to you. So it's either what you've done or what somebody's done to you.
So I don't know if this exactly falls under this category, but I remember in college I had this long distance relationship and we broke up. And then I started dating this other girl from the dorms, and we dated for a while.
Nice.
And then you're like, that was the most creepy, like, I'm listening.
Well, it's just my voice. I can't do it. It was really just like, nice.
You can't say nice normally. You're like,
nice.
And so we broke up, and I got back together with the girl that I was dating with before, long distance. And I go to this party with my old girlfriend, who I'm dating again, and my ex-girlfriend's friend sees us at this party, and he walks over to us, and he just flips me off. He's like this tall dude, maybe like 6'3" or something.
Yeah.
He just like puts his finger right in, he like gives me the finger right in my face, and I open palm slapped this guy
Fuck
to the ground.
yeah, you did.
and I just like straight, like he was up there, so I just like whoosh, I had to like bring it all the way up there, and out of the blue, this fool in his little cardigan, V-neck vest, looking like a Royal Tannenbaum, just fell to one knee, and I was like, "Oh shit, where the fuck that come from?" But I was like, "Fuck you," and then just walked away, and I was like, "Oh shit."
How good did you feel in that moment, though?
I could still feel it.
Oh my god! I bet the energy that's coursing through your heart rate is probably racing.
Yeah, but I'm not a violent guy or anything. I go to boxing. You see me at the boxing gym all the time, but like I'm not trying to pick fights with people.
That's a workout.
But it felt right.
It's a workout with some self-defense in there. But
when you feel provoked and you do something like that, ooh, I felt good.
Speaking of fights, they actually did damage to Ardent Studios. Alex put his hand through a glass at the studio door, and Lisa shattered a bottle of gin aimed at Alex's head all over the mixing board while they were making this song. In an example of just how tolerant and comfortable everyone became with the insanity. After engineer and Ardent Studios co-owner John Fry had the console cleaned, he quietly told producer Jim Dickinson, "We simply can't have blood on the mixing desk. Have a word with Alex about it."
So them doing these types of hijinks and fucking around like this and getting blood on the board and breaking bottles, I think this is where John Fry, he got pushed to the limit, to the point he's like, "Hey, we can't sustain this. You need to stop coming in at night and you just put the fucking record together, Jim."
Yeah.
And I think that's what started
the war between everybody and why the record came out in such a shitty fashion.
Yeah,
and now the reason there's 95 different versions of this.
Yeah, and we've taped enough. And they're done overdubbing. It always gets crazy. Can we just put something on wax, please?
Wouldn't you get frustrated if you had a recording studio and some, a guy that's like a heroined out genius with his shitty girlfriend?
Yeah, totally.
Could you imagine how annoying that fight was between fucking Alex and Lisa? I don't know what her voice is, but her name's Lisa. I'm assuming it's like, "No, fuck you, Alex. What the fuck is your problem?" I don't know why I made her that way, like Maria Conchita Alonso from fucking Predator, but I did. Just a typical white guy just doing white people shit like an idiot. That takes us to Oh Dana. A cute, catchy little song. Play a little bit of it for me, Peter.
Oh, Dana, come on.
A lot of people have tried to figure out what the hell the lyrics in this mean. From what I know, they're just random lines that Alex heard either his friend or lover Dana say that he wrote down and compiled into these lyrics. Thoughts?
Yeah, probably. The guy, I think it's crazy. It's like we're dealing with a guy that's all fucked up.
Yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, I'll scribble it down on a piece of paper and put out another Pop Diddy hit. Like it's like it's one of the easy digestible songs.
Very
on the
easily digestible. Now we have come to one of the saddest songs probably ever written, and like I said earlier, oddly enough, one of the few songs from this record that is on their greatest hits. Play 29 seconds.
Your eyes are almost dead, can't get out of bed, and you can't sleep.
This is emo before emo.
Oh, yeah. This is ahead of its time.
Very ahead of its time. Apparently, it was about Lisa's mother, who was an alcoholic and she was addicted to drugs. She also didn't get along with Alex. Even though the piano and melody were lifted from Yoko Ono's 1971 single, Miss Lennon. I didn't know that. Holocaust is one of the songs on here that has come to represent the entire vibe and mythology of this record, and in a sense, what I think is probably Alex Chilton's state of mind while making this.
It's so crazy. It's kind of interesting. I didn't know this about lifting that from Yoko, but that was the other heroin couple of that day.
Oh yeah,
They
were. Lisa was like, "We need to step it up a little bit. We're going to get up there with Yoko and John." My favorite part that I feel really captures the sadness of the song is what I would like to call the midsection, where they feature the cello of sadness. Can you play a little bit? So this song is about a parent fading away. And I wanted to ask you about your time dealing with your father's battle with Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah.
How did you handle caring for your dad during those difficult times? And then also, how did you care for yourself so you can care for others?
So I think one thing that really helped, I mean, it was really sad. It was one of the hardest things because Alzheimer's, like my dad had it for 10 years.
Yeah.
So you see someone slowly disappear before your eyes, and it's very difficult on, I mean, obviously the person that has it, but then your family and all this stuff. But the thing that was the most helpful is that my mom is hilarious. Like, my family is just funny. So when things would get as dark as it would get, like, my mom was just like, we're both funny, and my sister's funny too. Not like my mom, though. But, like, there'd be moments like my dad was he was in a home, and my parents were married for 50-something years, 53 years or something.
Yeah.
And there was another lady that was short like my mom at this nursing home that also had Alzheimer's. And for a while, my dad started thinking that she was my mom.
Your mom, yeah.
So he would walk around holding this woman's hand, and my actual mom would come visit, and he'd be like, "Leave us alone. I just want to spend time with my wife." And my mom would go every day to see my dad, and he went through this phase just like, "Leave me and Anna alone." And my mom was like, "I'm Anna." And so I called my mom one day to see how she's doing. She was like, that lady's name was Anna too. She was like, "Remember that Japanese lady, Anna?" I'm like, "Yeah." She was like, "She died." And I'm like, "Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry." She's like, "That's what that bitch gets." and it's just like that gallows humor that was just like, my mom, I'll be like, "Mom, what are we gonna do with I was like, "What are we gonna do with your body?" Like, we incinerated my dad, or whatever. Cremated, incinerated.
That sounds a lot better.
Yeah, we incinerated the guy. You know,
Viking funeral. Jesus, it's like Burning Man. We took him to Burning Man, we lit him on fire, and then we danced to Tiesto.
No, yeah, we cremated. I was like, "Mom, what are we gonna do with you?" She's like, "I don't know." She's like, "I want to donate my body to science. Everything but my little cosita. Everything but my cooch. Put that aside in a little shot glass with alcohol on it. Save that for Dad." Like, it's just like kind of gross, but you're like, wow,
that's hilarious.
And so I don't know. I think when something bad like that happens, you either sink or swim, you know. And luckily for us, like, we were a strong family, and we were able to kind of, you know, it was obviously really sad, but to have these funny moments are just like, I mean, that's what completely kept us going.
Yeah. I mean, that's incredible, man. All right. That takes us into Kangaroo. Play a little bit of Kangaroo for me, brother.
Didn't say excuse. Knew what I was doing.
This reminds me of Radiohead.
Oh, totally.
I hear Radiohead. I think this song is kind of ahead of its time. I feel like if a band released this song today, it could be released now, could be released in the 90s, could be released in the 70s. It just has that feel to it. The only thing about this song that I was waiting for that I didn't get was I wanted like a big beat drop.
Oh, yeah.
Not like DJ Khaled style, just like some noise, and then yeah. So according to Jim Dickinson, the confrontational Alex Chilton brought in this recording of him singing and playing an out-of-tune 12-string guitar on one track, which made it difficult to mix. He gave it to Dickinson with a smirk to test him by saying, "You want to produce this."
Wow, so he was like, "All right, here you go."
Giving him something to do. He was like, to see if really he could actually get something out of just this noise.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he did. Dickinson built this freaky atmospheric track around it to save it, and that cemented the creative bond between him and Chilton. And that was probably before it got a little fucked up. Lyrically, it's like some fractured, sentimental remembrance of being a young love story. Let's talk about young love and one of the biggest parts of young love, losing our virginity. Tell me about how you lost your V quadruple.
Well, it's quite a tale. So I was a kid in high school, and I was in love with this girl who was like, I thought was way out of my league, you know. and she was a cheerleader and stuff, and she was rich, and she literally lived on the other side of the tracks. Like I lived in North Redondo Beach, and which was all apartments and you know bachelors and immigrant families and stuff like that in apartments. And then there's Aviation Boulevard, and right across that, it's like the Manhattan Beach McMansions are there. And I lived on the first block of North Redondo, and she lived on the first block of Manhattan Beach. And I was like, man, there's something about this girl. And so for months, just trying to get her attention. And then a school dance came around, and I didn't go with a girl. I took a cardboard, those like cardboard posters, life-size posters of Jean-Luc Picard from Star Trek Next Generation, and I put a bow on his head. And I was like that kid in high school, you know? And I took it to the dance, and I took pictures with him and stuff. And
it's genius. It's creepy yet genius. It's hysterical.
And I was talking to her, and she's like, oh, that's funny. You could have taken me to the dance. And I was like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And and I was like, oh, that's crazy. And then eventually just flat out asked her. I was just like, I said, would you be my girlfriend? Like totally like dorky. And she's like, sure. And we started dating and stuff. And after a couple months, she was like, hey, I think we should take this to the next level, lose our virginities. And I was like, went for it. And she was like, not in my fucking basement while Frasier's on and my parents are upstairs. Like, I meant eventually, like, we should do this.
You hear the blues are calling, toss salad and scrambled eggs. Oh, that's quite nice.
And she was like, it needs to be special. And then I remember that she had told me that the most comfortable bed she ever slept in was a Regent Beverly Wilshire hotel, which is the hotel from Pretty Woman. And I was like, I remember that, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take you to the Regent Beverly Wilshire Hotel. And I called the Regent Beverly Wilshire. I was like, I have one room for Garcia, please. And they'll be like, that'll be $450 or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'll call you right back. And I was like, I don't have $400. I'm like, my parents are working class, and I don't have any money. And so I went out and I got a job. And I started working at this dry cleaner.
To pay for the hotel so you could fuck.
Yeah, I didn't even have a bank account.
Good for you.
A bank account, dude. That's the power behind that.
You're just bringing in rolled quarters. Like, there you go, $450.
And it was funny because it was the dry cleaner where her dad, who was like the vice president of a car company, took his dry cleaning. And he thought it was really cool that this young man was working at this dry cleaner like 3-4 times a week. And I was like, thought it was really cool. I was going to fuck this rich guy's daughter, I was like, yeah, okay, Bill. Yeah. And then finally saved up all this money. And I went to her house, and this is the weekend. It was like we were going to go do this, And I told her that we're going camping. So she's ready to go camping. I'm in this like a 1980 Toyota Corolla with like a different colored door, like a straight up hoopty, right?
Like a hoop.
Straight up hoopty. And I knew she was going to dress up like we were going to go camping, so I had taken her prom dress and I took it to the dry cleaner to get cleaned and boxed up, and I brought that with us. I was like, she's probably going to want to dress nice, so she's probably going to want to dress this like Disney's Frozen dress or something, like everyone wants to, like a Disney princess. It's like peach colored prom dress. Okay, that sounds good. I didn't know what I was doing, so I put that in the car, and then we start driving to Beverly Hills, but I wanted to be a surprise, so she had like a Rosie the Riveter bandana on her head, and I slipped it over her eyes, and I blindfolded her she was like, where are we going? I was like, don't worry about it, it's a surprise. We finally pull up to Beverly Hills in the Regent Beverly Wilshire, and it's like palatial. It has this circular driveway, and there's like guards, and there's like a valet, and I'd never seen any of this shit before. I don't know what a valet is.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing like these nice ass cars, Rolls Royce, Lexus, whatever. Just
you drive up in your fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, straight up piece of shit. And so like I just pull up, and the people are like waving me to go to the valet, and I just didn't know. I just froze, and I didn't know what to do. And so I like got out of the car, and I just like started like waving at the valet, and the guy's security comes and rushes over, and they're like slam the car, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, this is private property, like just like shaking me down. And then I
have a room.
They see my girlfriend with a fucking blindfold on, like we have a hostage situation, and they're like, oh my God. And then in Spanish I'm like, ay, no te preocupes, esta mujer es mi novio y vamos a hacer chaca chacazo, por favor déjanos virginity. And they're like, oh yeah, go right ahead, player, give me a fist bump.
Oh, well, in that case, should we here's a coat hanger for that orange quinceañera dress.
And so we check in. I even brought strawberries and champagne. I had a friend in community college go and like buy champagne because I was underage.
Fuck yeah.
And we go upstairs and we have the strawberries and the champagne, and we go at it. And I remember I had a Discman, and we listened to the song.
Gotta have tunes.
Yeah.
You put it on. Hey, baby, I hear the blues are calling, dog salad and scrambled eggs. I thought you'd like it.
We invert the headphones, and so we're each listening to one of the headphones like that, and we listen to the song by Pavement called "Rattled by the Rush," and
okay,
it seems a little on the nose. It's like you're rattled by the rush of everything or whatever, and then we like, it's go time, and then I put the condom on and I just came immediately. Like I just could not. I was like so excited. I was like, okay, here we go. I love you guys. Zoinks. Oh, scoop. It was done.
Did you guys try again?
Yeah. It was ended up being really lovely.
Of course. But the first time is like you put so much pressure on it. I mean,
and so much effort. Months in the making.
Months in the making. It's like, of course you're gonna fucking, which you should have done, which nobody tells you at that age, is toss one off before you pick her up. So you're not going in with a loaded gun. You got to reload the clip.
Oh, I went in there full clip.
That's dude. You good for you. All right. Then we come to Stroke It Noel. This was originally called Lovely Day, but Chilton changed it after an off-the-cuff remark in the studio to one of the session's violin players, Noel, of the Memphis Symphony Orchestra. I do really love the flow of the string arrangements kind of over the acoustic instruments. It's a very, very beautiful song. Starts off likely about Lesa again, who originally sang all over the record. And the song seems to reflect some kind of nuclear paranoia. Also remember that the Vietnam War was still raging when this was recorded. Peter, play minute 18 in.
Keeping an eye on the sky, or will they come? Oh, the bombs.
What are you paranoid about? What is your biggest paranoia?
Well, I just watched this documentary.
Hit me. What is it? What is it? I need a new
dude,
one.
The Facebook shit. Like
I've seen the ads on Netflix for that.
Oh man, the great hack. Have you seen this about how all our data is basically everyone? It's like it's
there.
Everyone,
they can find it. It's everything.
Stuff you've deleted, like it is all there, and it's for sale, and everyone has it, and it's like such a nightmare to me. Like, I'm not paranoid terror stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't get paranoid about a lot of stuff, but like I am getting paranoid about technology and stuff and our information, and then I don't know, maybe our credit card or like our money gonna be stolen. Like all that stuff makes me really uneasy.
I agree. We're literally serving up the government and the world every
Democracy,
day.
all that stuff. I'm like, where is this headed?
We're telling them where we're gonna be. We're tagging ourselves in places. We're showing them who our friends are. We're showing them where we work.
Honestly, I'd rather go back to no internet.
But also, without the internet, I wouldn't have all these fun facts. Like, it should be noted that Jody Stevens convinced Chilton to bring the strings for the record, which were arranged by Carl Marsh. And that segues perfectly into my favorite song on the record for you. Peter, play minute 46.
Thoughts of how it's going to be, and how I'll spend those cold nights warmed by you.
So this is Jody Stevens' first recorded songwriting effort, and in my opinion, it's a perfect song.
It's a perfect song.
It's perfect. I probably listened to this song 50 times.
Yeah.
I love everything about this song. except for the lyrics. So what we just listened to, when I come home so cold at night, you'll have the fireplace burning bright. That sounds like something that like a 14-year-old would write. That is like first band type lyrics. Because I used to make fun of my guitarist Joel because he'd play his like the first song he ever wrote, and the lyrics were like, lying awake in bed, all these thoughts going through my head, give me a loaf of bread, because without you I'm dead. I love Flanders Ned. It's just, serial killer Bundy Ted. It's terrible. To me, in my opinion, the lyrics are very, very weak on this. But man, did this song just like that little like ooh, that little run with the strings. I mean, this is why I think, in my opinion, why this album is on the list, because this song is so perfect.
That's so funny that the one non-Alex Chilton song
I know,
you love, but it's an incredible song.
Incredible.
And it is very straightforward in that naive kid way that makes you cringe. Like, I'm sure Jody listened to it now. I mean, he'd probably be proud of it, but he'd listen to the lyrics and be like, "Ugh."
I mean, it's Cheeseball McGee. It's really, the lyrics are the weakest thing about it. All right, that takes us to You Can't Have Me. Finally, we have some upbeat shit on this record. This is a brutal takedown of who I assume is only Lisa. Play minute 20.
You do steal things unawares, but I don't care. You can't have me, can't have me, can't have me.
So this is basically him just calling her out for everything. At one point, he calls her a klepto. And he even sings at the end, the drummer said you were not very clean, and I know what he means. I mean, that's him just fucking digging in on her.
Yeah. It's straightforward, pretty good song.
Great
I
song.
Like it. It's a good rock song.
Kind of mean.
Totally mean.
He was like, your breath stank. I was like, Jesus.
Does he say your breath stink?
No, I added that for comedic effect. He's like, you got straw hair, stinky underwear. You
It's
look
called
like
conditioner.
Cher.
Ever heard of it?
All right, nighttime. Play a little bit of that for me, Peter.
When I set my eyes on you, you look like a kitty.
You have to believe that Tom York was a fan of this band.
Totally.
You have to believe that everybody in that band loved this group. Because this is like somebody said to me, Big Star is your favorite musician's favorite musicians.
Yeah. People always say that, and that everyone that heard them started their own band.
Oh,
like
no.
it's that band.
Let's take this to about escaping. So you come from a family that escaped from a small town in Cuba, right? How old were you when you left, and how did that affect your growth?
Well, I was born here, but my parents and sister were born there, and they fled. I think my parents were in their 30s, and my sister was like 7, 9 years old. And so, they fled Cuba, and it's a crazy story. My dad, was imprisoned for asking to leave the country, and he was put in a sugarcane camp and forced to cut sugarcane for like 2 years, and then he was separated from my mom and sister, and then he fled to Spain and left my mom and sister behind, and then they went to Spain, and then they came to it's like this crazy story. And I didn't experience it. I was lucky to be born here and have like not that type of trauma in my life.
Sure.
But I think it affected me in like sticking with your people, like loving the ones that you love and just being there for them, because like my parents' love stories, like and my sister, they spent years apart, and like my dad was in pretty much like a Cuban style concentration camp, and then he fled to Spain, and then he went to the United States, and that was challenging, and then he got Alzheimer's like 20 years later. It's crazy. And so I think from that I learned like loyalty, and just if you love something, just love it. Love it all the way,
completely.
And so I think that's what I've gotten from, I think I'm lucky to have such brave, courageous, sister and parents. But
what about like with what's going on with immigrants now, and like people being affected by the closing of the borders? How has that affected your psyche?
I just think it's sad. We're doing the podcast that I'm doing with WNYC Studios right now.
Yeah.
It comes out later. But anyway, I've learned a lot about Cuba, and one of the things that's really interesting is that when people were fleeing Cuba by raft at night in the 60s and stuff, Lyndon Johnson passed a bill. He's like, we're a country that welcomes refugees. And this is Lyndon Johnson way back in the day. He's like, America's here for anyone who wants it. And it was such a beautiful sentiment in the speech that he gave at the steps of the Statue of Liberty. And it's like, what happened to that sentiment? And I know, it's a complicated thing, but it feels really crappy to separate family. It's that brutally.
We're getting, what they can really see, and I mean, there's probably even much worse stuff going down that we're missing, and it's to have an administration just be so cold.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that they're coming in here in a way that's not legal, but still, it's like that's how this whole country started.
Yeah.
So at least have some sort of a heart, and it just feels really empty of everything they're saying. So
yeah, and I feel like the guy's scapegoating brown people.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like something that the people that would vote for him really love. So he's like, "Oh, build the wall!" And it's like, he didn't do anything.
The wall's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
But if they don't see it, that wall to them represents just, like you said, all that hate, and it's just, and to them, it's not hate. It's just like, no, but we're right, and it's like, well, no, you're not right, because you probably wouldn't be here if fucking, whoever it was, Franklin Delano Roosevelt would have been like, no, we can't have immigrants, and it would just you'd probably have 100 million people in this country, not even. I like having 350 million. I say make it 500 million. Doesn't make a difference. Doesn't affect my job. I'm doing fine. All right, then that takes us to Blue Moon. Play 18 seconds in, brother.
Let me be a one line, and if you like a true one, take the time to show your mind.
A beautifully sentimental short song that fortunately doesn't get swallowed up by any extra sounds or strange production tricks. It's just a great, Alex Chilton being big star.
Yeah, it's just him being super vulnerable. I think this is why people fall in love with him in the first place, is songs like 13 or this, where he just lets it all out into the open, and you're like, oh, I have these feelings too. And this, I think it's probably for Lisa, right? It is. Love song for her.
They loved Nico from the Velvet Underground, especially the song "I'll Be Your Mirror."
It's beautiful.
So this is inspired by that. Alex wrote and recorded this beautiful little love song one night while Lisa was sleeping. She woke up to a note on the recorder that said, "It's all queued up for you, baby." That's nice.
That's really nice. That was one of me and my wife's wedding songs. "I'll Be Your Mirror."
Really?
Yeah. It's such a pretty song.
All right. Final song on the record, one of my favorites, Take Care. This pretty Baroque pop waltz is a fitting farewell to the record because it still leaves some mystery. Play a little bit of it, Peter.
Take care not to hurt yourself. Beware of the need for help.
What I like about this song is that no one really knows. Much like Thank You, Friends, is it a song giving good advice? Is it a fuck you to someone? Or is it a suicide note? We don't know. It could be any of the three. What I do know is that it's a perfect way to end the album.
It really is.
I mean, it leaves you on from what we've just been through on this journey, this gives a little hope.
Yeah.
Or infinite sadness, and I think it's just whichever way you want to perceive it.
I think so. I think you're exactly right on that. And it's really the winding down. It really feels like the ending of it.
Yeah,
and it's got the sentiments of this album has so many different feelings on it. And even though this song has a cohesive sound, it does feel like it brings all the emotions into it. And it's just like, okay, we're landing this plane, and I still can't tell whether this is a nice song or not.
But you know what? That's what's so great about it is that it could be whatever mood that you're in. Yeah. If you're depressed, this is your I'm depressed, take care. If like I just said, it could be whatever way you want to perceive it. But being in that it's the end, and we're talking about, the end, what would you like your last words to be?
Like, oh shit! I think that'd be pretty fun. like if it was adventurous, like if I was jumping off a rock into a lake, and I was like, yeah, oh shit! and then dying. I think that
do
would
a lot
be
of
nice.
spelunking. Is that why you're saying that?
I like the outdoors. I go out and stuff, but I think that would be a fun way to. I mean, I don't know what my last words would be to like. I don't know. To
Oh,
to
shit's
my
pretty
wife
good.
or to my friends, but going like, oh shit, like. I
always-
think that would be pretty fun.
I always say I just want to be like on my deathbed while people are around me, and I just like lean up and go, "Appetite for Destruction" by Guns N' Roses is the best record ever made. You want to do some facts and get out of here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Have facts, there's facts and some facts. The band stole their name from Big Star Markets, a chain of grocery stores in the Memphis area. I think that's fucking dumb. That's so dumb. Why don't we call the band Albertsons? It's like
John's.
yeah, it's like let's call it Whole Foods Destiny. Stop and Shop. It's ridiculous, but I get it. In 1986, The Replacements, one of the bands that were highly influenced by Big Star, went into Ardent Studios to record their 1987 album, Pleased to Meet Me. They not only got Big Star producer Jim Dixon, but also got Alex Chilton to play guitar on their first single, Can't Hardly Wait, and honored him on their second single, which they simply called Alex Chilton. That's really cool. Actually, it's funny because when I typed in Alex Chilton on Spotify, that was the first thing that popped up.
It's a great song.
It's a great song. Which of your heroes have you got to meet or work with?
Let's see. Oh, duh. This is so dumb. Robin Williams.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, and actually, it was one of one of those moments that you're like, this is incredible. I can't believe this is happening.
Set it up for me. What happened?
So it was my going away show in San Francisco at the San Francisco Punchline. It's the first time I'm ever headlining my home club, which is an amazing club, one of the best clubs in the country, and where I started and everything, and where I, when I started comedy in 2005 is where I'd go every Sunday to the local showcase, and I'd go see all these headliners. Anyway, I was doing this big show because I was moving back home to, take care of my dad and to do more comedy and stuff like that. And so I made the big deal out of this. I was like, it's my going away show, and I did that so I couldn't move back. And I saw that, I think Bobcat Goldthwait was in town, and we're buddies. And I'd opened for him before, and we remained friends. And I was like, hey, Bob, I texted him. I was like, I'm doing this big going away show. If you want to come through and do a set, that would be awesome. And he was like, yeah, totally. And so I show up to the club. I'm there like an hour early, and just hanging out and in the green room. And Bob's like, I'm out back. And so I go out back, and it's him and Robin Williams.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, hey, Bob, how's it going? He's like, this is my friend Robin. And I'm like, oh, hey, how's it going, Mr. Williams? He's like, oh, like Robin Williams. He's like, oh, doing good, whatever. And I was like, you want to...
Does he sound like a Beetle?
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing quite good.
good. And then he's like, I was like, if you want to do 5-10 minutes, I'd be happy to break off the time. Totally joking. And he's like, yeah, I love it. And I was like, oh, okay. Oh, cool. Yeah, sure. Awesome. Well, I'll put you on the list and let me know where you want to go. And so I'm like, and then he goes into the green room and we hide him because we don't want people to we want to blow people's minds, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm in the green room. People aren't really there yet, except for my therapist shows up. And this is the first time this guy.
Everybody,
I invited even my
Jesus,
therapist,
dude.
dude.
The girl from the Beverly hotel fucking shows up in her orange
security
dress.
Guard, everybody. And so I'm like, I see my therapist, and he's like a theater nerd, and he's there, and he's the first one, and he asked to sit front row center. And I come back in the green room, I'm like, oh shit, and Bob's like, what's going on? And Bob and Robin are there, and I'm like, I just my therapist is the only one out there, and he's in the front row. And Robin Williams goes, oh fuck. And I'm like, I know, right? He's like, what are you gonna do? And I was like, I don't know, man. And I was just kind of nervous, and he's like, that sounds terrifying. And the cool thing I remember about seeing Robin Williams in the green room is that not only was he really nice, but he was nervous. Like he was like he, you see, he had his hands clasped together. You kind of see him sometimes. I don't know why he claps his hand in the front and he kind of rocks back and forth, but he's kind of like rocking back and forth. And he's like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to close. And Bob's like, just close with the dick joke, dummy. That's what we all do. Just close with the dick joke.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay. And so anyway, we're backstage. People file in. Show starts. Show's going great. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Robin Williams. And people are like,
They're like, who?
Biggest star you'll ever see him. He's like,
him.
yeah,
That Robin. Okay.
People lose their shit. Standing ovation. He's also a hero in San Francisco.
Of course,
you know. And so people are losing their shit, and he goes up. He's really funny. He ends on a dick joke and just kind of like nods to us, and he's leaving the stage. And I'm like, I can't follow that. And my friend Kevin Kamiya, who lives in LA now, who's a great comic. He's in the back, and I was like, Kev, you gotta do me a big favor, buddy. And I push him towards the stage. And then like you tell my friend Joey that's hosting, goes like, Kevin's gonna do a quick guest set. And so Kevin goes up there and
just
eats
shit.
for 5 minutes.
Fuck
dude.
yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. I mean, you're evil.
I wasn't good.
But you're going. Hey, you're never coming back.
It's my show.
100%. No, good for Kevin, dude. What did Kevin say after he got off? You owe me one.
He
just ate a fat dick. Just a fat, slow, big black 12-inch. Just from. Oh, good for.
Just ate it, and then I did my set, and I was doing my regular stuff, and then halfway through, I just kind of broke with it, and I was like, I'm moving home, and here's the deal. My dad's sick, and I just went through a lot of the stuff I've thought about but hadn't really done on stage, you know, maybe some things a couple times here and there, and being like, this is going to bump people out.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just let it all loose, and I cry, but then I make fun of myself for crying.
Sure.
I'm laughing through the tears. Like I'm crying, but it's somehow funny. Like I'm just like falling apart, and I'm like, whoa. And it was amazing, and it felt so good. And I, made fun of my therapist. I said I was moving down to move in with Robin and Bob at the end. I don't know. It just like all worked out, kind of one of those sets that work out magically, and you feel like you're out of your body. And then I remember leaving the stage, walking towards the green room, and Robin Williams just gives me a hug, and he's like, that was hilarious and beautiful and straight from the heart. And I was like, oh, and then gave me a hug, and then hugged Bob and the rest of them. But that's one of those moments where you're like, wow,
I mean, it's and even more now how much gravity is in that, because now he's gone, and just be able to share that with him on such a special night for you in front of everybody that you know. I mean, that's beautiful.
He had no idea who I was. He was just hanging out with his friend, and he was moved. And he shared that with me, and I was like, "Wow, that's a moment." Yeah, it was one of those ones you,
if anything,
flash
it teaches
before your eyes when you die.
Just be honest. Just speak from the heart in everything you do. Thank you for coming on and being so honest. This was great, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you? The one and only Chris Garcia, ladies and gentlemen. Follow him on Instagram at RadTuna, and follow him on Twitter at _Chris Garcia. And please check out his new podcast, Scattered. Listen to it on Spotify. It is incredible. I'll also be posting Chris's Spotify mixtape so you can get inside the musical mind of Chris Garcia and every one of our guests. And you can find all of that and all things 500 on the website, the500podcast.com. Email the podcast at 500podcast@gmail.com, and follow me at Josh Adam Myers on all social media. Do us a favor, subscribe to the 500 on Spotify or your favorite platform. And if you are listening to it on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. Come on, take a minute out of your day to leave us a review. Now, we just listened to Big Star from 1978. For new music this week, our music director Matt Pinfield selected Mondo Cosmo. Mondo Cosmo is originally from Philly. A couple years back, he released the brilliant album Plastic Soul with the epic, undeniable single Shine, which sounded like a cross between Dylan and The Verb. Ooh, I like The Verb. Mondo always talks about how Big Star and Alex Chilton were very important influences on him, as well as Bowie and Noel Gallagher. Listen to Mondo Cosmo's latest release called Come On Spotify. Check out the link on our website, the500podcast.com. And if you're in a band and you're directly influenced by one of these albums or artists and you want your music featured on the 500 website, send your song to 500podcast@gmail.com. Make sure you put the album and artist that influenced you in the subject line. Next week is Police Week with their 1983 album, Synchronicity. Listen to it on Spotify, because y'all got some homework to do. Stay fleecy, you cadoogles.